Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Holman, and here we are recording for November 27th. Happy Thanksgiving to our American friends and, of course, our American retail family. Love you guys. Hope you're spending some time with your family. Rob, hey, here we are, man. End
gobble,
of November. Gobble, gobble.
How may I help you?
Yeah.
Well, you can start by wiping that smile off your face. Little planes, trains, and automobiles. Great Thanksgiving movie. Excited for the day. Lots of good stuff as usual. And my day again. I had another coffee issue this morning, Dan.
You did?
Coming up the stairs from the parkade. Just a little trip this time. Just a little trip. But enough to make my hand go that like I couldn't have more purposely thrown my coffee in my own face than I did this morning. So I'm amazed at the expertise in that hit, but we'll forget about that. Headlines. I'll get on with the headlines this week. We've got one. I like this. It's a story about how people can help independent stores, not just through this little holiday season, but the winter season as well. So we'll talk about that. Big fan of retail partnerships in general, and this story focuses on retail partnerships. Looking forward to hear your views there. We're into a season of new, and really like this part, a lot of people making time for old traditions around the holiday season. And I like to call him Dan Mr. Moneyball sometimes. Moneyball. The guy likes talking about numbers so much, and he's going to share some retail math that you'll definitely want to hear, folks. So hang around with us for that. And, second wave, we're in it, the wave of shutdowns, a lot of stuff going on there. So we can't not talk about that, and we will. So anyways, the first story comes to us from ConnecticutMag.com. How to help independent stores through the winter and holiday season. Doesn't matter if this is in the States or in Canada. They've got some great, broken it down into just different ways that you can focus that support. Dan, when you hit the story, what popped into your mind?
Well, the first thing that I thought was rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Good article. It shared 5 sort of tips on how you as a consumer can support independent retail and those retailers in your community. And, I'm going to spin this a little bit and not talk about what the consumer should be doing, but rather what we should be doing. And this is absolutely rinse and repeat. You need to be in front of her at every single opportunity. You need to have a connected point of sale system. You need to deliver on her expectations and yours. So, this article, as it broke down, these 5 things prioritized for a lot of people, shopping is going to be a little bit different this year. And Connecticut Mag was saying, you got to prioritize your shopping. Well, for us in independent retail, we need to prioritize, our help in buying and her buying from us, and talk to her about that. Who's on your list? What's their favorite color? Curate a selection of items that satisfy her list. Prioritize your time with her. They talked about making this commitment, and every consumer out there should make a commitment every time you buy something. Think about that wrap package and what are you wrapping and where are those dollars going to go? You need to make that same commitment. What can I do for her to keep her closely connected to me? And this isn't really just for the holiday season. It's for the 3 months that follows that holiday season. Make a commitment to your customer. The third one was put plastic on it. Ask your local shop about gift card or gift certificate availability. This has been forever, one of the key ways to generate a bunch of cash really quickly for a retailer, and that is to sell gift cards at a discount. And today, it may not be selling a gift card at a discount. It may be about you standing in front of her, phone in hand, and saying, I know you maybe can't come into my store this morning, but you can still support me and your local community by buying a gift card. Text me at this number, message me at this address. I can call you, and sell someone a gift card, put it on plastic, help them for their future needs, which we know they're going to have. And here's another one. I loved this one. I love this. Bookmark it. If you go into your URL bar, your browser window, and you start to type an address, and the minute you put A in, Amazon comes up, you know you've got a problem. You have to know that you are not supporting your local community. And I don't care if there's an Amazon warehouse 5 minutes from your home. That does not mean you're supporting your local community. You've got to support them. So when you're thinking about that shopping, every one of our retailers has modified their way of doing business. And consumers are going to be surprised at how much we actually have to offer today. And then recruit.
Nice.
Recruit. Double your spend in your local favorite shops. You as a retailer need to be recruiting customers. How do we recruit customers? We recruit them by creating ambassadors. How do we create these opportunities for us? By creating an ambassador in our store, an ambassador that waves your banner's flag. You've got to create ambassadorship. Plug it, ironic, but the best way to save your local shop is to sing its praises. That really speaks to create ambassadors for your store, not customers. Ambassadors are customers for life. Yep. Their lifetime value far exceeds what you will do in business today and today alone. Create these ambassadors. And sanitization. You've got to share this message of being sanitized. Today in Alberta, you've got to share a message of, our capacity and monitoring people in and out, but you also have to share the messaging of how you're sanitizing in your business. So I'm going to say there's a link to this article. Don't be afraid to share this article with your consumer audience. Share this article on your Facebook page. Totally. Let people read and find out. Even if you just grab the 5 ways to support your business, you'll be further ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed the recruit one. We talked about it last week, the BYOB, the bring your own bubble. So, and your, your Wolf of Wall Street isms, the get on the phone. And so here you are saying, get on the phone and recruit. Double recruit, triple recruit. Don't just get that one customer. They like you for a reason.
Right.
Leverage that. Ask them to invite a friend within their cohort. Right. Tell them to bring the cohort along. And I just love the impact that can have for you. But it falls on you you got to get out there and start do some of that stuff.
You do. You absolutely do.
All right. Speaking of looking for opportunities, our next story comes from glossy.co, and it talks about creating, now's the time to focus on new retail partnerships. Feels, some companies may have given up for a while on wholesale retail partnerships. There's just so many different types of the partnerships that retailers can look to make to really benefit from. Dan, when you read this, what goes through your mind there? Winning. Charlie Sheen.
First thing that came into my mind last night when I'm reading through this article was winning. This is a Charlie Sheen moment. This is about us winning, creating a win-win-win environment. A win for you, a win for your client, and yes, a win for your partner. And today, this, I guess this speaks to this topic we talked about last week in collaborations and partnerships.
Yep.
This really does echo those things that we were saying. We have to create a plan. We have to work harder at maintaining good relations to get us through the highs and lows in retail. When you're riding a high, you want to be able to call that partner and say, hey, we're on a high. We're riding the top of the wave. What else can you help me with? How much more can we maximize in this opportunity or in this relationship? And forging new relationships today and every day needs to be a priority in every retailer's life. Resting back on your morals leaves you lagging behind on morals. Resting back on your past performance, not morals, resting back on your past performance, really leaves you a victim instead of the leader. You're now a victim of circumstance. Whereas if you're forging these new relationships, looking for collaborations, creating a plan for your future, you'd be surprised what you can create. I pulled this out of this article, this example. It said, we had to get creative and embark on a new plan. The strategy that we came up with will allow us to exceed our plan by 130%. The most important piece in this whole article was that they had a plan. You have to plan for your future. And I talked with a retailer yesterday, and I said to them, this is it. We either take risk, be risk willing, or be risk adverse. Which is it going to be? Which do you want to be right now? If you want to be risk adverse, if you want to bury your head in the sand, if you want to hold back, that's okay. It's your decision. You're in control of your destination. But if you're risk willing, there is opportunity out here right now. So many other retailers have been, let down their relationships with their vendors. Vendor relationships are critical in moving your business forward.
Yep. And you would think through all these challenges, think with the vendor hat on for a moment, where of course they're seeing a tremendous amount of trouble and challenges right now. But all of a sudden comes along some retailers where here's how you can help me, and in turn, how I can help you. I think they're going to be pretty gung-ho to the conversation and ready to participate in ways that you may never would have thought that they would have participated in the past. But it starts with that plan that you're talking about. It's awesome.
I had a really great call from a retailer late last week that said, I got two really good calls. I heeded your advice from your podcast, and I called a vendor to talk about a collaboration. And I was really surprised at how they've responded to me.
Oh, cool.
I was really surprised that they were willing to do this. And that was just pick up the phone and call. The other one was somebody that said, I listened to your podcast and I'm turning shit to sugar. So I loved that. I loved that somebody knew that line.
Yeah, when we don't call him Mr. Moneyball, we call him Mr. Turn Shit to Sugar Holman. But on that, Dan, and so much of what you and your team do, and just so everyone knows, like, this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. They are your shit to sugar, provider. No, they're not. But you had a post yesterday, Dan, just to go off topic for a moment, where just, a lot of people are in the weeds right now. And part of that is just, they just need to vent and talk about their pains. And sometimes, sharing them, expressing them, you'll be surprised at what comes out of it once you're able to reveal some of that. And that's a lot of what your team does. I don't want to, it's not the 24-hour helpline on all things, but
it can be.
It's so much of what you do is that small independent retail, and they're dealing with things that, I got to deal with. My kids are shipped home now. I gotta run my business, and now I got kids at home. All kinds of stuff. But
so Travis Sharkey is our business development manager on retail and on the restaurant side. And Travis, we're engaged in this conversation about helping. And I said to him, we had lost something to Lightspeed, or I think it was maybe Lightspeed or Shopkeep or something, and he was really frustrated by it. And I said to him, the lesson learned here for you is to not speak their language, not to speak the language of the big POS guy. Speak the language of the independent retailer. Understand their pain. Allow them to vent. Yep. Let's talk about what the solutions that CRS offers retailers is molded to them. It's not molded to payment processing and e-com, which is where so much of point of sale is headed. It has become so commoditized that it's lacking the personal flavor that's required in this independent 100%. World.
Yeah. And I can speak to that in my world of marketing and advertising, where, to your point, highly commoditized. The tools are available to everyone.
Right.
You turn to, well, what do we do with these tools and the strategy behind it and the ideas? Right. And all of a sudden that's where we created the value proposition, not on the tools themselves. But folks, if you haven't yet, head to retailbycrs.com, from the latest point of sale software, merchandise intelligence, open to buy plans, and more. As we just went on for a few minutes, they are here to help, and it starts there. So, okay. You. Speaking of old traditions, new traditions, this story coming off the wire, a lot of data being shared on consumers' behavior this holiday season. And we're going to see some of that, just, taking a breath, slowing down to appreciate the holidays with the family. And how does that translate, Dan, into the retail world?
For sure. This holiday season is going to be somewhat modified, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And we can't control it. All we can do is play the hand that we're dealt with. And those of us that love to play cards are going to excel. Those of us that know how to take the hand you're dealt and create something different is where we need to be. This article, I'm drawing a blank where it was from. It was from Newswire, wasn't it? Retail Newswire. It talked about 78% of Canadians say they planned on spending more conscious plan to be more conscious of where they're spending and where they're going to shop this holiday season. And a brand's alignment with their personal values is an important part for the customer's decision. And 72% of the audience said they plan to shop primarily from the brands that share their value. So yes, while we might have old tradition, old habit, the majority of consumers plan to spend with brands that embody their own values. This is critical in adapting to a non-traditional season. Let's align our values and vision with what our consumers are doing. This article also talked about, Rob, in-store versus online. And although online shopping has had this increasingly powerful presence, it has in some cases become a preferred way for consumers to shop. 2/3, 2 out of 3 customers still plan to shop in stores. The question we should be asking ourselves is, how do we capture all 3?
Right.
How do we speak to all 3 customers, not just the 2 that plan to come into my store? And regardless of this second, third wave, adjustment, restriction, blah, 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 we still have to have a game plan. We still have to have a game plan that does honor tradition, but also helps customers to step out into what will become this year's non-traditional holiday. Scream from the mountaintop, man.
Yeah, no, totally. Keep yelling. I talked earlier about on the recruit. That was on the front end, right? But even on the back end, thank you for coming. And be sure to send a friend tomorrow, or we'll be here. Right. Send your family, and on that 2 out of 3, double those 2s, triple those 2s, and because maybe that one just, it won't matter what you say. I in our business, I talk lots about that $1 million customer. It'd take me $1 million to finally crack into their skull. I finally heard of you guys, and not to worry about it, because you'll spend $1 million and they'll still figure out some way to have not heard your message and avoid. Right. But focus on those ones that you can really move the dial with. Yeah.
And so, you bring up a good point, Rob. It used to be, when we were growing up, when I went to the Roy Williams Wizard of Ads Academy, he preached. If you don't know who Roy Williams is, you got to check out the Wizard of Ads. Roy Williams is an iconic radio advertiser, radio guy. He's transitioning, but anyways, I digress. He taught us that you had to touch a customer 7 times, that you had to be in front of them 7 times to get them to take some level of action. Well, that was 20 years ago. Were you looking for your Wizard of Ads book?
I think I have that
in
book.
My camera.
I'm trying to. I got to learn to read backwards in my own camera.
Yeah. But so Roy really talked about creating ads that move those 7 connections, those 7 touches, to that, in that engagement funnel. Here I go, start to talk like a media guy now. Oh my goodness. That you got to create this engagement and to get people to when you move them from engagement to conversion, it's 7 touches. It's not 7 touches anymore. The world has changed. You've got to touch them 70, maybe 700, which is why impressions are important. When you talk about your digital marketing strategy, you've got to be looking at impressions. How many times do I need to be in front of someone before they see me? We don't know the answer to that question today.
It's a lot. They all work together, and I use that term, finding that silver bullet of what was that one thing? There isn't that one thing.
There's no one thing.
These things all work together.
Right.
Yeah, you talk, The Wizard of Ads, funny. You know, the book's what, over 20 years old.
Oh, easily.
You read it, and it's kind of, I laughed really hard because I think it was published 99 and around there. I believe there was one mention of the internet in this book. But what was amazing about it was if you removed the medium for a moment and not worry about if it was the radio, if it was the, just how many of the lessons just hold so true. And Dan, I came from the newspaper world, and there's one going way back to Thomas Smith, and I have this one. He wrote this in 1885. 135 years ago, about talking about successful advertising. And he goes into like the 20th time, and I'll just share a couple because they're kind of fun. The first time people look at any given ad, they don't even see it. The second time, they don't notice it. The third, not even aware it's there. Then you get into the 8th time. There's that confounded ad again. I think this is 1885 we're talking about. The 12th time, they start to think, this must be a good product. And on, all the way up to the 20th time, they see the ad, they're buying what's offering, and then they turn into, talking about the bringing their friends and that cycle. So I love this. It's from so long ago, but it doesn't matter if it's newspaper, radio, digital. It just really speaks to there's a lot of things that you got to keep doing, folks, to connect with that audience.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's about meter, time, and message. Right? It's getting that good rhythm down with your ads, and they all have to be connected. You have to have good meter and time, and you've got to have the right message. And so many of us fail on messaging. So many of us are focused on product, on item, rather than what it does for us, what that product, how it impacts us, how it changes how we feel, how we look. Those things are important. Okay, off the box. Sorry. Let's carry on.
Okay. We're into the world of Mr. Moneyball here. And folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, there's a movie about Billy Beane, baseball movie. And I love it. Here's a good quote from the movie, or Billy saying, there's rich teams, then there's poor teams, then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's us.
Then there's us. Yeah.
And he made that reference to the point that money wasn't going to get them out of their problems. They had to focus on the numbers and the simplicity of get on base or don't. And that's where they put their focus. And Dan, when you think of the Moneyball, you talk about, you got some great videos about retail math, traffic and conversions and that. Okay, Mr. Moneyball, tell us what you got.
Yeah, so right on. Moneyball is absolutely my favorite business book of all time. Probably one of my favorite sort of, sports themed business movies of all time. And, this thought leader, this renowned management leader, Peter Drucker, was often quoted as saying, you can't manage what you can't measure. Drucker meant that you can't know whether or not you're successful unless success is defined, quantified, and tracked. And the first challenge in deciding what to measure, let's go back to Moneyball. Fans of Brad Pitt, remember the lessons of this book, this movie. For a century, more than a century, baseball managers used the wrong metrics, the wrong math to make management decisions. Really, it was almost recruiting decisions. Who to bring on, who to let go, who to play, who not to play. Well, sure enough, Moneyball tells this story of a small group, that are below that 50 feet of crap and where they actually lived and what they were going to do. This was a story of naysayers who opted to take a step back and look at numbers differently. The numbers that they rely on so heavily to manage their clubs, their teams, were a misguided number. Yet, it's the most commonly used metric in baseball, and it tells a part of a story. Let's use Babe Ruth as an example. Babe Ruth, widely regarded as the best hitter in baseball history. But if we measured him on baseball's simplistic measurement, batting average, he'd be 10th on the list. I mean, he doesn't even get his picture in the paper. The problem lies in the simplistic metric. Batting average is the number of opportunities times at bat divided by, or the number of hits divided by the number of opportunities, traffic divided by conversion. And it gives you a simplistic measure, an oversimplification that's used by us with limited ability to process large scale, data numbers. Whereas in Moneyball, they created a slugging percentage. Babe Ruth's slugging percentage, weighting his number of bases achieved against number of opportunities, changed the metric. And in retail, we need that metric. We need a slugging percentage. We need a scorecard. Our scorecard and slugging percentage gives us the ability to define what we're doing. And a scorecard for us in retail is just this assembly of our KPIs, our key performance indicator, the 5 to 15 numbers or data points that defines our performance and leads us to success. Take, for instance, those 3 hypercritical indicators you talked about in sales performance: traffic, conversion, and dollars per transaction or average sale. These indicators lead to sales. Your traffic, opportunity to sell, times conversion, capturing a sale, times dollars per transaction or average sale, in fact, equals your sales volume. And more importantly, when we break down your sales volume by these 3 factors, it gives us this granular view of our performance and allows us to see how applying small improvements make massive impact. We've lost this. Traffic, opportunity. Doesn't matter whether it's in your brick and mortar store or on your digital store. The number of people that walk through your front door multiplied by your ability to engage them and convert to sale, multiplied by the average sale, the dollars per transaction, equals your volume. Increase your traffic by 10%, consequentially, volume goes up by 10%. Increase conversion by 10%, volume goes up by 10%. Increase your average sale in your store today by 10%. Your volume goes up by 10%. If you're 30% off of your sales goal right now, what metrics are you using to understand why? What truth are you telling yourself versus what excuse are you making? This is all about retail math, man. This is about understanding the math and the metrics that lead into these critical key performance indicators.
And in this world that, this came out of brick and mortar, but same rules apply on the digital front. How many people landing on that website?
Yes.
The conversion. And I love your line of, if you're down 30 points, you're not just down 30 points, like it's coming from somewhere.
Right. There's a reason.
And if you didn't have understanding of just those 3 base KPIs, you're really doing a disservice to yourself to really try and understand well, this was just by the fact that, 20% less people came in my door. Okay. I can't quite fix that right now. We're dealing with outside factors, but I can make up for it over here. So what are we going to do to fix that part of the equation? And I'm going to combat that going back. So. Right.
And Rob, you have to recognize that sales being off is an incident in the business. Right? When you look at the longevity, the lifeline of a business, our sales being down this month 30% is an incident. Incident drives investigation. Investigation drives action. In your life, incident creates an investigation, which then creates an action. An investigation, why, how, where, when. Your volume's off, investigate, and then investigation will lead to action. If your sales volume is off because traffic is down 30%, what do you need to do to improve traffic? If your average sale has dropped, how do you fix your average sale? If your conversion has dropped, please tell me why conversion would be down. Conversion should be ultra high right now. People are shopping with purpose. If conversion is off, there's a mistake on your sales floor. There's bad process.
Yeah, you'll find it fairly quick.
You'll find it.
Yeah, totally. Got to bring in from the old school. Welcome back, Cotter. Vinny Barbarino. What? When? Why? What? Okay. I hate this story, but we're going to talk about it. From BNN Bloomberg.ca, through all the closures and the shutdowns that, and you called it in the last couple of weeks that there's heavy lobbying involved from the big boys where they were making darn sure that they were be able to stay open as fully as they could while the little shops can. What are your thoughts here, Dan?
Yeah, well, they were lobbying for shutdown. They continue to lobby for shutdown while the little guy gets cast aside. And I'll be honest, and maybe you already know this about me, and maybe the listeners do too. I think the Premier of Ontario is a misguided buffoon. But I think that of a lot of politicians. This guy, it's unbelievable, unfathomable the way he's carrying on in Toronto and Peel. And when I say I think that about a lot of politicians, I'm going to take a step back and say, hang on a second. Today, I don't maybe believe that about all. Yesterday, in fact, last night, I had to take a step back as I listened to the Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, talk about, declaring that the Walmarts, he said Walmarts of the world, or of our province, pardon me, not our world, but of our province, are no more important than the independent retailer. And the fact, in fact, he further declared they need to shop, that consumers need to shop in Alberta owned and managed retail stores to support those families and their life savings. Holy cow. This was a politician saying that's bucking the system that his counterpart in Ontario invoked in Toronto and Peel. And if you're a retailer in Toronto and Peel region, where Doug Ford has cast you aside like an insignificant speck, you got two choices. You follow your shepherd to slaughter, or you embody a little bit of Ronnie James Dio and stand up and shout. Scott Smith will love that reference. Dio, one of his favorite bands. You got to stand up and shout, or even better, blend in a little Twisted Sister and declare you're not going to take it anymore. You've got to stand up and scream. And in this article, we heard, from the CEO of Canadian Federation for Independent Business, just saying, this is ridiculous. How is it that I have to close my independent retail store while my competition, Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, the grocery store, are now competing with me, and they get to stay open without the same restriction? Here in Alberta, I was very proud. I'm proud to say, that this guy stood up and spoke for the independent and said, I'm not going to close them down. This goes against their civil liberties. I'm not going to close retail down. We can't mandate that. We can't demand that unless we close all retail.
Yeah. So for those in those regions, on the stand up and shout, I've had my share of meetings with politicians over the years, and I'll share this one story. Like I've been in meetings where something is literally just said almost in passing, and then I listened to a press conference the next day.
Yeah,
that passing comment is presented as fact, and as the business community says this, reach out to your local MLA, reach out to your MP, and shout a little in their ear, and hopefully they turn around and can turn that into something. So if you're angry, if you're mad about it, that great. Many are, but do something about it. And,
those
not
are the
be
cards
a jerk
you're
about it. I can tell you what's going to happen if you pick up the email or the phone and insult them and shout in there.
Yeah, if you're Dan Holman and you call him a buffoon, you're not getting anywhere. But you're not me, right? But, you're not telling people how you feel. You're telling them,
and give them a way to. They want to be champions of their community too, and show them how they can turn around and be that champion of the community, because in this particular instance, your corner of the community is hurting, and you need to find a way to let them be a hero. Not picking on the politicians, but give them a way to discover their local hero points, and they will gladly take that opportunity.
Right. And a well-crafted email, Rob, that starts by going to your local chamber president, your local MLA, your local counselor, your ward, depending on the size of your city, speaking directly to those people that are connected to your community. Doug's not connected to a specific community. He's speaking on behalf of a province, the largest province, the most populous province in Ontario, and taking the most dense part of that province and killing killing the independent right now. And so you've got to do this. You got to stand up and shout, and with craft, with strategy, with tactic, to be heard. And you start with your chamber and your local politicians, the ones that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, Kath, it's Dan. Can we chat?
Yeah, right on. A lot of good stuff this week, Dan. Folks, if you haven't yet, head to retailbycrs.com, sign up for the newsletter. We've got the links to the stories we talked about today. In addition, we've got some extra stories that we didn't quite have the time to chat about, but I'm sure you'll want to check out too. A story about the toy retail, just bracing for a super busy season. All of these boredom busters out there, and you'll want to read that. 5 things you need to know to succeed in the modern beauty industry. You may not be in beauty, but it was a really good article, and it wasn't just 5 things. I think it was like 20 different people sharing 5 things. So there was a ton of great observations in there that, regardless of your industry, I'm sure you'll find something that'll inspire you as well. And I like this, don't need to wear pants, pants-free Zoom calls, but here is a business focused on Zoom-friendly accessories and a store that curates from the waist up. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that too. Thanks, Dan. It was a good one.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was always fun. Always fun to hit off on some headlines.
Yeah.
And you know what? For the first time in a long time, shoot a little praise over to, what's happening in Alberta. I understand Alberta retailers, some of these constraints are going to be a challenge. Play the cards you're dealt. Let's make the best of it. Here, we're retailers. We figure stuff out. We're entrepreneurial. When we figure stuff out, we can figure this out. Head over to thewealthyretailer.com or retailbycrs.com. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. We've got this topic, a copy of the podcast, tons and tons of great information, and even some new initiatives that we need to be aware of sort of as we roll into December, January, February. And trust me, February is going to come. So let's start to plan for it.
Yep.
Happy retailing.
Happy retailing. Thanks for joining us on the Wealthy Retailer Podcast, everyone. Have a great day.
Cheers.